Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before we begin, let us give a brief little review. In the last part, a number of events have happened. Now, we had the group. Bakugo and Kendo were still out at the bunker getting supplies. Meanwhile, Remains of the Hero Association sent a message to people. Nedre found out Endeavor was alive. Todoroki, reunited with his father, found out his sister and brother are alive. And this certainly means a lot. Now, Lady Nagant was the person who broadcasted the message over the radio for the Hero Association and made things aware to civilians. They are alive, they are back, and they are here to help. Right now, this puts them all in a very complicated spot. The infected have been amping up a bit more. More variants are going to the outskirts of cities. Along with that, Nedre, she encountered and saw a zombie Night Eye. This was bad. He looked almost exactly the same. However, they had to run, and Nedre herself was dealing with a bit of a debate. Activate the robotic army under UA. Turn it against the military. Destroy them. Murder possibly hundreds of people. Not only military personnel who have been putting down authority on them, but civilians. Potentially children. She doesn't know who'd be caught in the crossfire, but she can't rule it out in the overall decision. The military have their own people to protect, to care for. They are giving them power, but they're all doing that from the end of a gun. They could help. They could make this easier, but they're not. Now, Nedre, she made things clear to Momo. Keep an eye on Todoroki if they're going to go back to the bunker. She's going back to base to sort a few things out. Now, with that being said, a few days have begun to pass, and the Hero quote-unquote Association has been doing a bit. And we do currently cut to Endeavor. Endeavor, he does sit there, him expressing a few things to his son. Right now, it's complicated. Right now, it's a bit strange. But he'll tell him what he remembers. He'll tell him how it was. Currently, Endeavor going to lower a cup of coffee. His shoulders going to somewhat stiffen a bit as he doesn't look up at his son, happy to see his children alive. All of them. Almost. All of them. And this does make the man's face somewhat waver. Lady Nagant walking over and bringing her hand up onto his back. Her going to pat him on the back and then let someone sit down, as Endeavor would return, expressing. The Hero Association did a lot of things. The fact of the matter is, Sir Night Eye, whenever quirk malfunctions began to be quite apparent, they didn't have much to do. He looked into the future to see something. He doesn't know what it was. But clearly whenever this happened, he used his ability. The association had time. Not a lot. But they had time. They tried to get things prepared as best as they could. And they knew there would be an emergency. So Night Eye didn't say everything about what happened, what was going to happen. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he couldn't see that far. He was just very vague on a lot of things. The fact of the matter is, he thinks the man could have been infected then and there by looking into the future. Trying to look so far. The man was already clearly mentally unstable, mentally unwell. And honestly, he can't blame him now that he's seen some of the shit that has happened to the world. As we do currently cut to Endeavor, sitting there in that meeting about 1 week before the apocalypse. And it's definitely a whole thing. He does sit there in his hero uniform. However, his fiery beard is not present. And some of the pro heroes here, they do look unwell. It's simple. Some of them are able to be here, but some are not. This was an emergency meeting, and some are currently being phoned in, but it does make him worried. The Quirkbolt functions the association and the committee don't know too much about. They have reported in that people have been hospitalized and some have even died. So, how should they proceed? How should they handle things? And Night he talked about how in the oncoming days there could be a problem. There could be a shift. The man went on. He rambled like a fucking madman. And no one believed him. It was apparent. People would get sick, and some could die. Mutants in particular were having a harder time. And the mutants in the meeting were not present. However, there also was concern about your quirk aggravating the supposed illness. The committee kept a lot of things hidden. Looking back at it now, he should have asked more. And right now we do actually have Endeavor. Endeavor, he does sit there in his home. Him just with a lot going through his head. Currently, him sitting in his study and trying to figure it all out. And we do actually have where a phone call does go to come through. The man, a bit confused, as right now he just don't stand. Him bringing his hands up and looking down. Him going to look at them and going to try and activate his fire, but feeling nothing in response. In this, it does annoy him. However, it does not deter him. The man going to suit up and head out anyways. And the man, he was a lot more confused. Reports of crime began to go up. And then, that's when everything truly went wrong. The man was trying to be a hero without his power. That was difficult. It was different. Though as the number 2 hero, people would not want to fight him. And All Might, the number 1, where was he? And then things broke. Almost all at once. Every mutant potentially in the world. They got the hunger. They just bared their teeth. And that's where things went crazy. Currently Endeavor turning his head, hearing a person scream as actions were mutant, were going to throw their hands forward and smash out onto a person. Them landing on them and biting down and sinking their teeth directly into the woman's throat. Currently them tearing back a chunk of flesh and going to turn. Them screaming out angrily as Endeavor would turn seeing that. And they're actually a hero. Who does come running up, bring their hand up. Currently them throwing their hand out as they do this, a turn, looking at their hands. Confused. Bring their hands up again and trying to activate their quirk. And their actions with the mutant will get us on turn. Standing up and making their way towards the hero. As somebody else gets on step forwards. Them bring their hand up as the person they are immediately encased in earth. And they do so on turn, looking at their hand. Them shaking it off because of a strange feeling it does have. And Endeavor does not stare at that. Currently the person fighting in the restraints and screaming out. And currently Endeavor's phone, it does begin to blow up. Emergency services are having their lines just completely go haywire. They are getting too many calls. There are fires breaking out. There are explosions going off. There are people attacking others using the full might of their abilities. Hero services are crippled. Some pros are on duty, some are not. Some can use their abilities, and some can't. In this, it does have him worried. Currently Endeavor hearing a sound and hearing a mighty roar. The man turning his head as their actions with someone they do come flying in. Endeavor turning and seeing a massive gust of wind. His eyes going wide as he going to turn. Him running over and smashing into somebody, picking them up and carrying them directly into the alleyway. Him turning and shooting them with his body. as right now a massive gust of wind just ripped through the entire street. And the man, he wasn't going to turn, him feeling a massive wound forming on his back. An endeavor, he does not going to bring up his hand shakily and feel it, before trying to activate his quirk and then feeling the sparks in his hand, him cauterizing the wound on his back as he brings up his other hand, biting down a bit. Currently, him going to take a breath and gonna turn, hearing another sound. An endeavor, he will just stare outside the alley, looking out to see somebody. Currently, them bringing their hand up and holding a man by the head, him staring at it and going to smile. Before All Might would bring his right hand up to his head and drop the person, him looking around confused. And then there actually is where he does look around for looking at his hands, before he has to somewhat punch himself in the face and then goes to fall to the right. Endeavor, watching his All Might, is going to stand and then going to scream it again, before punching himself across the face again. And this, it's highly confusing. All Might falling to the ground and trying to take a breath. And Endeavor himself, he's trying to think about what to do. All Might looking up and looking around. And there actually is where Endeavor, he does go to watch on. His phone buzzing again, trying to express to him about a few things. And the man, he has a few thoughts going through his own mind. If this is happening, what's going on? Him going to look up. Him turning and going to express to the person. Stay in the alleyways and find safety. Make sure not to run into All Might. Something appears to be wrong. And never going to turn. Him bringing his hands up and getting ready. Him leaping up into the air and then going to shove off of the building. Him going to turn and bring his hand up, grabbing onto the emergency fire escape and climbing his way up. And the man, he does get a better viewpoint. Currently, him looking out to see the entire city. And he doesn't hear it. Sirens and everything of the such. Endeavor seeing in the distance a massive Mount Lady. Her stepping through the ground and bring her hands down. Currently her grabbing a bus as she does not pick it up. And the man is just don't watch on. Her bringing it up and ripping the thing in half as if she was breaking a candy bar. Before she does not look inside. This thing, it's tiny in her hands. Her abilities, is she larger? An Endeavor, he does not bring up his phone. Currently, him looking at the missed calls from Fuyumi along with the missed calls from his agency. An Endeavor, he does not bring his hand down. Him, so I'm going to fumble and make a phone call. Currently, him patching it through as the call with Fuyumi, it goes to drop. Him, concerned, make another phone call. And then getting through. Currently Endeavor watching the distance as Mount Lady dumps one side of that bus down her massive gullet. Before, she doesn't turn dropping it. It flying to a building as their actions were just come flying towards him. Endeavor turning his head and watching it smash into a wall. And their actions were just to look down. Him seeing All Might going to stand there and get back up. Him goes on turn and then goes on turn bending down, striking a bit of a pose and jumping off into the air fast. Him feeling the shockwave begin to form as Fuyumi does go to someone ask, "Hello? Hello?" Fuyumi, Dad, are you okay? What's going on? It doesn't seem right. Where's your brother? Natsuo. We're at home. Natsuo said the school was shutting down, that there was an incident. What's happening? I'm scared. I don't know. Listen, him looking on, and he doesn't see Mount Lady go to turn, her swiping her hands at some of the buildings on the ground, as All Might is flying up and smashing her in the face, her flying backwards and then her bring her hands up, her smashing her hands over her head and going to create a massive shockwave as Endeavor feels the building become unstable. Him going to turn and going to run over. Him leaping off and trying to think about what to do. Him looking around and seeing a lamppost. He can bring his hand down and do what he does best: improvise while falling. He might be able to activate his flames, but it'll burn up his phone. And this is one of the thoughts going through his mind. And their actual sort of hero, they themselves come in. As right now, Best Genius does not bring his hands up, and Endeavor is caught in a web. Him landing and then turn his head. Him staring on his Best Genius will somewhat fly forwards, asking the number 2 hero if he's alright. Something's wrong. And the man goes on express, bring the phone back up, that they should just stay at home. He'll try and find out what's going on, and him getting a phone call. Him looking at it and hanging that up. Talking to Fuyumi again. He'll try and get Shoto. Find out what's going on. Right now, staying home may not be the best bet. People are harming each other. And this, it does make him rather concerned. Mutants are rampaging, but from the pattern he's picking up, it doesn't seem right. All Might's not a mutant, is he? And, well, his powers are still acting up. Still on the fritz? Him bringing up his left hand, trying to shoot flames as a fireball is going to manifest in his hand. It going to spark out as Endeavor does stare at that. Best Genius going to express. Number 2 might need to hurry. Besides, they've already gotten reports in. Orders have changed. They're asking the Hero Association to help move the committee to a secure facility. Along with that, they're offering them safe passes to anybody who they bring. Right now, they need to get civilians to safety, get them to the bunker, and find a secure path. The committee, they have the next 30 minutes to get this accomplished and done. Currently, him gets on turn. And there actually is where somebody, they come smashing down and bring their hands up. Them doing so as Endeavor does a stare on. A zombie Mirko going to stand there. Her going to crack her hands and then bring her hand up. Her cracking her neck and then turning it the other way. It doing so very unnaturally, as if she just did it a little too far. And there actually is somebody, they do come running out. Them bringing up a weapon and staring at Mirko. Them firing it at her as a result strike her dead center in the chest. Her looking down at her hero uniform and then gonna turn around slowly, staring directly at the person. And the person, they do gonna continue to unload the weapon right into Mirko. Them showing her center mass as Endeavor does get a watch on. His eyes widening. As Reno Mirko would a lunge forwards, bringing her foot up and kicking the man dead center in the chest. Her foot flying through the man as he does, going to be lowered down with her leg. Her bring her head up, grabbing the man by the hair, and going to bring her teeth down into his head. Her sing them into his neck and ripping up. Her pulling with a lot of force as, right now, Mirko just scream out happily. Her turning her head as there are other mutants there. Some beginning to gather around. And Mirko just does not drop what remains of the man she tore. Her going to bring her head up and lick the blood off of her hand before looking around and seeing Best Genius. Her giving a toothy grin as Mirko does not turn to Endeavor, expressing, he needs to get people to safety. He'll handle this. I'm going to turn. Right on him, bringing his hands up and using his quirk. As he does, creating a barricade wall directly in front of him. And Endeavor, he is left to fall towards the ground. Him throwing his hands out and smashing down for an assault roll. Him turning to Genius and watching as Mirko is leaping up in the air and creates a turn. Her leaping down and going to attack Genius. Him bringing his hand up and going to spin. Currently him wiring her up as she doesn't sit there disconnected from the air. Her in a string trap that the man created. And Best Genius, he'll get a turn, yelling out for Endeavor to move, because his quirk is acting odd. He's beginning to lose a bit of control. And currently there actually is Mirko, who does sit there in the air, her trying to run her legs through the air and hit onto any string she can. And right now the man does not stare on. Mirko leaping forwards, trying to sink her teeth into the man, as he does stare at her. And Mirko would do one simple thing. She wants to hit her target. She wants to hit her mark. She wants a taste of flesh. She wants to satiate the hunger that's making its way into her head and just will not shut the fuck up. That's going through Mirko's mind. Currently, her bring her hand out as the man will bring his hands up, tightening her restraints more as Mirko, she doesn't move forwards more. Currently, her ripping one of her legs free from the man's control. Her throwing it out as blood flies toward the man's face. Her, then, bringing one of her hands out and ripping the skin from her arm. Her throwing her hand out and out towards Beshinus, before she had to turn and slash one of the things covering her arm. Her beginning to free herself as she doesn't fall towards the ground. And Genis, he is trying to hold up the zombified hero as best as he can. And we do actually have Endeavor, who he was running through the streets, him trying to get home as best as he can. And the hero committee, they still have that offer for evacuation. And right now, there's a problem. Currently, him getting into a car as he does, go look down. Him turning his head and seeing the person sitting there dead in the passenger seat. Him a bit horrified, but going to at least make sure that the car does still turn on. It doing so as going to put it in a drive. Him going to turn on the radio and see what the news might be saying. The man beginning to play bumper cars and haul ass down the road. Him trying to make sure to hit who he believes to be infected. No. Endeavor wanted to go straight for UA. However, reports are saying a lot of things. Pro heroes who have mutation-like abilities have begun to turn on their fellow man. People who suddenly found themselves unable to use abilities are left helpless, and as far as they are aware, the only way to solve this situation is with a head shot. Several cases have come in of these things not going down when hit in the heart. They do not appear to be living, and in their professional opinion, currently them turning their head, as something is pounding on the door and it is a smash through, as there actually is where Hawks does stand there. Him bringing his hands up as he's to hold up his feather and express, them flying forwards as many as don't scream out. Currently a sound being heard, followed by another sound. It being some growls along with crunching and tearing. And there is where Hawks will go to walk over. Him grabbing the microphone and going to express. He's rather happy to be here. Though, if anyone's wondering, it's lunchtime. Henry won't laugh before Hawks can be heard hitting something against the desk. And currently, this does concern Endeavor. Him turning back and pulling directly into the house. Currently, him going to turn and honk the horn for stepping out of the seat and going to turn. Going to the other side and grabbing the person out, laying them into the road. Him concerned about giving them a burial. However, here's a turn. Currently a person coming out and making their way towards Endeavor. And Endeavor, he does go to grab them. Currently them trying to shoot out a tail straight towards his face. Him turning his head and going to turn, chucking them into the wall as Fumi and Natsuo do come running out. And Endeavor with a turn, yelling at both of them to stay back. And Endeavor brings his hand up for coating it in flame, punching the person straight in the face as their head smashes into the brick wall behind them. And Endeavor, he does go to look down. Currently him going to turn, bring up a massive chunk of the wall that broke off, holding it over his head and staring at the person. Him going to hesitate. And Endeavor, he does stare down at a human, his fellow man, before the person does turn, looking at him with a wild eye, them about to make a move Endeavor knows all too well. Somebody playing possum. Endeavor smashing this thing down into their head, and then gonna turn, running over to the car and talking about the two they need to get to UA. Try and find their brother. And Fumi tries to express to her father. She hasn't been able to reach Todoroki all day. She's tried calling him, and she's gotten nothing. And their actions were Endeavor, his phone is beginning to buzz again. Him pulling it out and answering it. Todoroki? Mr. Endeavor, where are you? Who is this? Him pulling his head back, putting them on speaker and seeing the contact information for the Hero Association. Them beginning to express. Right now, they need him here front and center. They need the number 2 hero now. Things are not looking too good. And the man expresses he'll be there soon. He needs to head to UA. Currently the car speeding off away from the house. It crunching over another body. And Endeavor is told, do not approach UA. Him trying to look at the phone, smashing over a zombie, and then looking back up, seeing the blood in the windshield and turning on the windshield wipers. Expressing to the man, his son is at that damn school. And the man expresses, UA has fallen. Reports have already come in that the school is overrun. He does apologize, but Mr. Endeavor's son is already dead. He's in the heart of an infection zone. About 40%, if not half, of UA's school curriculum was mutant types. He apologizes, but the boy may not have survived, especially if his quirk was malfunctioning. And the man, he does his not look down solemnly. Fumi, bring her hands to his nutso, is in the back, shouting at the man that that's bullshit. And it never, he does sit there quietly, before the person expresses, there is a place they will be safe. They want Mr. Endeavor there. Right now, bring what remains to their location, and they will be transported to a safe location. Are the hospitals overrun? Yes, Mr. Endeavor. Hospitals were the first place. We believe them to be hot zones as well, along with school centers and malls, largely populated areas. They're hit the hardest. That's everywhere. That's everywhere in this damn city. I'm aware, Mr. Endeavor. We are trying to hold the line as best as we can. But with them guys don't turn, and the line going dead. And Endeavor, he's not too happy about that. Him having to make a choice. Try and find his wife and son. Looking at the chaos all around him, it's unlike anything before. Anything he's seen. Pro heroes are turning on their own God. Endeavor thinking. His mind was trained for a lot of things, a lot of situations. But seeing that look in that kid's eyes, he didn't want to smash his fucking brains in, but he was trying to eat him. He was just hungry, deranged, insane. And the way he looked, the way Mirko reacted, All Might himself. Mother of God. All Might's infected. And this, it does go through his mind. Endeavor thinking about a few things. All these people had in common. Mutant types. Pro heroes. People who use their quirks extensively. Endeavor himself isn't doing too good. All of the excitement, it's opening the burn on his back. And he is still bleeding. Right now, he's making a choice. UA fell. That's what the man told him. Hospitals are overrun. That's what the man told him. On this day, his wife and son may have been killed. Endeavor, making his way to the location, and Ren no Fuyumi does sit there quietly. Her not saying anything, as Natsu in the back seat is talking about a few things. Him expressing about the radio. And right now an emergency broadcast is being sent out. Endeavor hearing that thing over and over and over again. And they do to pull to the location. Him walking over as people begin to make way for Endeavor. Him turning his head and looking around, seeing that the area, it does have some casualties. And this does not look too good. There are people who are bitten. There are people who are laying dead in the streets. And then there are people who have been affected by quirks. Endeavor turning his head and seeing the half-melted skull of somebody. A bit more concerned if that could have been fire or potentially acid. Whichever one it could have been isn't good. Right now the broadcasts are running, and that means anybody with ears and who might be infected or crazed can hear it. This is the end of the goddamn world. And Endeavor, he does express about where they might be going and how he wants to head to UA to see it for himself. If the school fell, it fell. He wants to try and find his son. And people do try to express to Endeavor, they'll be passing by the area. He should be able to see it on top of that damn hill. Right now, though, load up and take a weapon. And Endeavor, he doesn't feel right having one in his hands. And their actors are leading the gaunt. She just won't stand there. Her staying on top of an RV that is driving. And she has a rifle as she is on the convoy. Her with a safety harness strapped onto her as she does turn. Her firing at some of the zombies who are on the highway. And Endeavor, he does a lookout. Him seeing in the distance that mighty hero school that still stands. There's a massive ice cube. And then there's fire all over it. Parts of the school look burned, and from here it looks... fuck. And ever thinking, he wants to abandon it. Try and find his other son. But if he steps off right now, he doesn't know how long communications might be up. He doesn't know where Natsuo and Fumi might go. And if Todoroki was caught by a surprise, like he was, there's a chance he could have been immediately killed. He's fighting every urge to jump off this convoy and use his quirk. Fly to UA and fly back here as fast as possible. But that's the thing. He's risking abandoning what family he knows is alive for the family which isn't. He hates his fucking training. He's acting rational. And Endeavor, he does want to try to break down from it. He just starts to cry, trying to understand all of this. And some people around them, they don't blame him. Some of them weren't even caring, some weren't paying attention, and some held their head in their hands trying to hide it. And there actually was where they pulled up to the facility. Currently, people being let in as Endeavor, he does stand there. And there actually is where some infected, they have come to join the party, trying to hunt down the pro-heroes themselves. Now, this does mean quite a bit. And we do actually have where Endeavor, he does stand there, him with a rifle and looking up to see a mist of purple smoke making its way towards him. People rushing through it and beginning to make their way towards the heroes. Some on all fours and some on 2 feet. And the military along with Endeavor, they begin a fire. Currently Natsuo standing with his father and firing at a rifle. And the man, he doesn't yell for people to retreat in the facility. Retreat, retreat, retreat. And they all do start to understand. Currently them making their way in as the doors, they are heavily sealed. And the zombies, they're left outside pounding on the doors. And people are brought into the bunker. And Endeavor, he does finally get a chance to sit down. After some time, he does get treated for his wounds medically. And he is then given stitches because of the extent of the injury. The man has lost a lot of blood, and now that all that adrenaline has calmed down, he's not doing so good. Fumi herself thinks about a lot of things. Their neighbor went insane. She saw them. Motherfuck. They had a pet. Their pet was reacting, their pet was making sounds earlier, and honestly, she doesn't want to know what that sound was. It didn't sound right. It sounded like it was in a lot of pain. And this, it does make her worried. They're missing Mom and Shoto. And Natsuo, he does stand there himself. He had a lot of promising things for the future. He had a lot of opportunities and other things he wanted to do. Meet a pretty girl, date her, kiss her, love her, the whole, 9 yards. He had a lot planned. And now he doesn't know. Honestly, taking his mind off of it by just thinking of some dumb, crazy shit feels better, but it just makes him feel worse. His friends are dead. Or they're out there running around eating people. Or they're alive. This whole thing just doesn't fucking feel right. And people, they were up in a lot of chaos. All of them had things they wanted to understand. But the Hero Association tried to make it quite clear. They got them all to the evacuation bunker. They will have enough time to survive down here. They have farms and resources that will allow them to be here for up to 5 years, if necessary. The association, they repurposed this old bunker from a previous project, or at least concern Japan officials had before. It's old. However, they have made sure it is still up to date on many things. This will be their home until they can confirm the surface is safe again. They will not be harmed or pursued by, well, the individuals who attacked them. And Endeavor, he doesn't don't speak up. Him expressing about how those individuals were no longer living people. And people just don't turn looking at the number 2 hero. Him expressing to the official. He saw Mirako take multiple firearm shots to the chest. He saw one of them rip through her and hit a car. He had his own eyes witness a hole be torn through the goddamn heart of that pro. And she just stood there as if it didn't exist. These things eat flesh and don't need their organs to function. As far as he's aware, that sounds like something. The man looking around, and people, they're a lot more confused. They didn't know those little facts. Yeah, in the back of their minds, they all thought zombie. But no one really wanted to say that word. Nobody really wanted to put that out there. Because that makes it real. That means it's not just their own eyes playing tricks on them. Not just some of the shit they think they saw. It's fucking real. And currently that it does pose questions. In Endeavor, he does continue talking. We're now him bring the coffee up to his lips in the present day. About how afterwards people begin to settle in. It was uncomfortable and it took a lot of time. But they all made the necessary adjustments. It just meant a lot. Nobody was really sure about what to do, how to do it until schedules were given out. People got to farming, people got to protecting, and they had to monitor their own. They had internal security. Check the doors, check any place that could be compromised, and make sure the air kept flowing. That's how this place has been for the last ever. I'm sorry. I'm just glad you're alive. The moment I saw you, you were one of the best things that happened to me. All of you were. I love you, son. I know I never really said it a lot, but I do want you to know that. I'm proud of you. And I only wish I could have expressed that more. There's a lot of things to catch up on, talk about. Currently, Nagant rubbing his back again, expressing to Todoroki. Right now, they're still a bit confused on a lot. They don't have the rundown on things like they do. So if they could fill them in, it'd be much appreciated. And Todoroki would return to the strange woman who seems to be awfully friendly with his dad. And currently, it does have him a little bit more intrigued. The woman going to express, she was a part of the Hero Committee as well. Well, she worked for them. The Hero Committee, let's just put it this way. They had a lot of things they needed done. So that was her job. She was part of internal monitoring of pros. Who was good, who was bad. And they needed her help. The thing is, she helped secure that place. That safe zone only held because of her experience and her guidance. People would have died. A lot of them. It's quite possible, without her and some of the people that the association had there, it would have fell. She just doesn't like remembering some of the things she saw that day. Especially having a flash in her mind. Her face going a bit pale as she don't turn, excusing herself because of the image. And around Todoroki, he has a turn back to his own dad, trying to express a few more things about the outside world himself. Now, right now, a lot is going on. People are processing a few things. The bunker is open. The world, it has people outside again. The city, it has its own problems. And right now, there's one problem at the heart of it all. The one thing that needs to be addressed immediately. If they want to take down the infected, make sure they're just shambling and mindless. The Hive. It still has that bomb that was put under there oh so long ago. Nearly 5 months. But that's not the only thing that's down there. And we do currently have where a hand, it does come dragging itself out from the pit. Currently, another hand coming out. And the person, they do to drag their way out. Them still hearing the whispers in their mind. And currently there is where they do actually get up onto this bank made of flesh. Them sitting there for a second and going to actually turn. Them being to vomit up the fluid of the pit. And the person, they have a lot going through their mind. They have a lot of things that don't make sense. A lot of personalities, a lot of people, a lot of names, a lot of information. And slowly but surely, it does begin to be filtered out as the fluid does drain from their mouth. And they do just don't look up. Them turning their head and backing away. Them highly confused. As right now, Deku, he does bring his hands up. Looking at his hands. Him bringing his hands up to his face. And finding that his face isn't melting. He's alive. But he doesn't understand. I'm looking up at the waters, turning his head and looking at the massive bomb that does sit above. He sees the entrance. He sees a lot. But it's dark down here. Him guys won't stand and walk back over to the water. Him looking down and into it. Looking at this strange fluid. Before turning his head and getting a better look at the area. This massive cavern made from the corpses of people. Made from the flesh of civilians, heroes, and villains alike. And a few things pass through his mind. He's alive. His finger returned and, well, he's... Let me look down. Naked. Well, I guess he can't have everything. I'm gonna look up, and seeing as the creature does begin to make its way out of the pit, him bring his hands up, as this thing, it doesn't crawl out. It's going to walk right past Izuku and act as if he is not even there. And this, it does become highly concerned. Him seeing a few of the creatures as one of them are nesting and tending to their spawn, tending to the smaller creatures that are next to it. And Izuku himself does feel a bit repulsed by what he's seeing. Right now, him gonna turn and run. These things don't seem to perceive him. They don't seem to know he's here. And he's assuming it's because he's covered in whatever the hell this fluid is. He's not gonna look a horse in the mouth right now. Not a gift horse this fucking rare. And Izuku, he's unaware as to a few things. Exactly how long he was in those waters. And with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part. I'm sure someone can hear my shit-eating grin.